Hello. This is my introductory podcast. This is the first of maybe hopefully many other podcasts that I do. First off, let me introduce myself. I'm a traditional Catholic and I attend Mass in the SSPX. And, when it comes to the fraternity and all the other traditional places, I'm more pro SSPX, but they're trads too, so, we are in the midst of one of the biggest crises in the church in a very, very long time. I mean, possibly, ever. The worst ever in the history of the church. Right now I was looking through the Orate Chili blog, and they were talking about declining mass attendance in France. It's pretty bad. Welcome to the new springtime of Vatican II. Orate Chili says it's a well-known historical fact that France, the most populous nation in Europe for many centuries, was the first in the continent to experience demographic stagnation. And so, demographers have usually ascribed that national curiosity to an early secularization dating from before the Revolution. Mass attendance statistics before the Council were quite lower than in most nations. Those statistics related to important life events, such as Baptist marriages, were high. But after Vatican II, nothing could have prepared secularized France for the Vatican II storm, and no statistics showed this better than the collapse in the number of priests and weekly mass attendance. Okay, let's put this thing in perspective here. The West is not having children. This is an issue that's very somewhat serious. I mean, Europe is being taken over by Muslims, and as a result of that, there are issues, many issues that we have to deal with here. First off, it might hurt a lot there, the cultural identity. Here's a caveat here. I'm not a Nazi, so please do not call me Nazi, because I am not. I highly disagree with them. I'm a nationalist. And so, it is with this in mind that I say that Frenchmen are right to be concerned about their growing Islamization of their country. And not just France, but maybe Germany also. I mean, this is being plagued. Europe is being plagued by this. I mean, you got fertility rates that are like below 2.1. And you know who I ultimately blame for this? I blame the Catholic Church. They're the ones who should have stood up a long, long time ago to avoid and fight these things. It's very simple. They had to speak out against it, and maybe things would have been much better now. But no, Vatican II comes and we've got a whole new ball game here. And of course, all the post-Vatican II popes have been atrocious. Now we have call me Jorge as Pope. And with this character in the Vatican, man, he's just destroying everything you could think of. He says a heresy every day in his sermons. I'm telling you, there are no words to describe how terrible this Pope Francis is. I mean, you thought that the Borgia popes were bad. This one's worse. At least the Borgia popes, I know they lived bad lives, they had concubines and all that, but they never compromised doctrine. They did not compromise doctrine. This guy is. I mean, come on, the Synod, seeing that gays have amazing and, or should I say, good qualities to offer. That's bull. I mean, come on, gays don't have anything to offer us. Those people are sick. And I don't know why on earth there's such an infatuation with them nowadays. I mean, can't they see that marriage is between a man and a woman? And that's just plain fact. It's just not gonna happen. I mean, you're not gonna have kids unless you adopt, and then those kids are in deep trouble if they get adopted by gays. And they're messed up, psychologically messed up. And to be honest with you, I think gay adoption should be completely banned, and gay marriage curtailed, or banned completely, even better. To the full extent of the law, homosexuality should be punished. You may call me a homophobe, but you know what? I'm not. I'm being realistic here. It's a thing here that, we live in a world in which everything is is upside down. I mean, we are completely messed up. We are so messed up. And continuing on what Roraticelli said, the French, Monsignor in France says that when he ordains 100 priests a year, 800 die in France. So for every 100 priests that's ordained in France, 800 die. In other words, they're trickling down. It's still trickling down. Welcome to the springtime of Vatican II, my friends. And Horate concludes this saying that the number of traditional priests in France will reach a majority of the total sometime in the next few decades. Now that's it. Tradition's growing. Novus Ordo's dying. I think we have a good shot at taking this thing over, you know? Basic demographics. I mean, the more children you have, the more the population grows. And since triads are having more children, and the more the triad population will grow. It's that simple. It's common sense, and we're just telling you, this thing just has me upset. I mean, this Pope is just completely out of his mind. He is out of his mind, and he's a nut. He's crazy, and I believe he's a liberation theology loving guy who wants to destroy the church. And if he wants to destroy the church, we are in deep trouble. I mean, we have for the last 40 years, but now we're like in the deepest of the deep trouble, to use a fancy word. But we're in crisis. What we have is just completely utter nonsense. But what we have to do is we have to stick to tradition. The more we stick to tradition, the more surely we'll be alright. Because really, Pope Francis is just not gonna help. He's not gonna help matters at all. He's the problem. Not the bishops, even though they are modernists too. The bishops are modernists. Nobody wants to realize that it's the Pope himself to blame for this. It starts at the top. As the remnant always says, these neo-Catholics just, the remnant just completely nails it here. Neo-Catholics just don't get it. They don't get it. It's not the bishops. You gotta criticize their boss. Their boss is Pope Francis. He's the one to blame for this. I mean, come on. He says, who are we to judge gays? You're serious? Kidding? You bet your life we have to judge them. Not personally, but their acts. I mean, they don't really... He doesn't know. I mean, come on. This Pope just does not know his catechism. He just does not. He's quite illiterate religion-wise, and basically take everything he says with a grain of salt. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not. I mean, he's done. If you look back at his time as a bishop of Buenos Aires in Argentina, some of his liturgies were pretty wacky. Children's Mass, World Youth Day. Hey, don't get me started on World Youth Day. It's just horrible. This guy just does not have any sort of he just doesn't care. He doesn't care for reverence and tradition. He just wants to get rid of all tradition. It's typical post-Vatican II Jesuit fashion. That's what he is. He wants to completely get rid of it. And, things like this that really get me mad. I mean, Vatican II is completely messed up. It's something that you might find a few traditional things here and there, but overall, it's got all these loopholes that you could do whatever you want. It's the anything goes council, as I call it. Pope Francis is also anything goes, but that's another story. But as I was saying, I read a good book about that explains a lot about Vatican II. It's called The Great Facade by Christopher Ferrara, I believe, was the author. And as he said, he went into deep detail about what document? Yes, document Sacrosanctum Concilium. He goes into all the loopholes, and he notices that the placement of the loopholes are right after a traditional phrase or idea, so it negates it. Very interesting, and I urge everyone to read that book. I mean, it's so true. Even though the book was written in 2002, it's so true, and even more truer today than ever, with this radical in the Vatican. What I intend to do is in these podcasts is expose what's going on around here in the church and the world, and figure out exactly what's, makes sense out of all this stuff. I mean, we live in terrible times, possibly the worst in history. What we need to do at this moment is, be informed, have keep the faith. All right, I'll see you either Sunday night or Monday for the next podcast, and I'm going to go and start to talk into, more into the nitty-gritty of this thing. Because we got a lot to talk about, and it's a crazy world. We got a lot of current events we could cover, many current events in the church. And so, with that, I will now say my farewells, and see you next week.